Hi guys, it's me, Mr. Bertoch, your incredibly handsome science teacher. And in this video, we are going to be talking about the lunar phases. In the sky at night, at least most of the month, there is this mysterious, ginormous orb of light that is white, well, it looks white, and lights up the sky, and it is called the moon. And it is what causes werewolves to come out, but that is a lie because werewolves aren't real. It has a lot of other impacts though, like tides, causes tides, which we talk about in another video. Don't you love that I do that? I'm like, and that is in another video. But see, then you have to go watch all my videos if you want all of the smartly knowledge that I am barfing up on you. So anyway, the moon. But as you watch the moon in the sky and its bright light, it changes throughout the month over and over again in this very predictable pattern where it goes from a completely dark moon and then a little bit like a sliver, and then it looks like it's half full, and then it looks like it's 3/4 full, right? And then it's a full moon, and then it goes the other way. It goes back down. Well, that is what we call phases, the phases of the moon. Well, what in the heckens is causing phases? That's my new word, by the way, heckens. What in the heckens is causing the phases of the moon? Or another way we say it are lunar phases, because the moon's name is Luna. Phases of the moon, lunar phases. What is going on? So let's start by talking about how the moon, the earth, and the sun are arranged in comparison to each other. So the sun is in the center of the solar system, right? And the earth is orbiting around the sun. Orbiting means circling around the sun over and over again, one time per year. And then the moon is orbiting the earth. The moon is going around and around the earth, and it takes the moon 1 month to orbit around the earth. And by the way, if you think about the word month, it sounds like moon. Okay, that's not accidental. The month is based on the orbit of the moon. It's based on the fact that it takes the moon a month to go around one time. So as the moon orbits the earth, sometimes it's going to be, let's say, behind the earth. If we call the sun the front of the earth, wherever the sun is compared to the earth, let's call that the front. Then sometimes as the moon orbits, it's going to be behind the earth. So it's going to be on the backside of the earth, away from the sun. And other times it's going to be on the side, one side or the other side, okay, as it goes around. And then it's going to come back around in front of the earth. And it's going to be between the sun and the earth. And then it's going to go back to the side. And then it's going to come back behind. And it's just going to keep going around and around one time per month. Well, imagine, think in your mind, you can do this. This is something you can, this is a thought experiment. Okay, and your brain, because you're smart, you can handle this thought experiment. Imagine, what is the light on the face of the moon going to do? Because the moon doesn't produce its own light. It's reflected from the sun. So imagine how the shadows and light are going to change on the surface of the moon as it's orbiting around the earth. And sometimes it's in front of the earth, between the sun and the earth, and sometimes it's to one or the other side, and sometimes it's behind it. You can imagine how the light on the surface of the moon is going to change as it orbits around the Earth. When it is in front of the Earth, all of the light on the moon is going to be on the back side of the moon, on the side we can't see. Okay, we're sitting here on the Earth and we're looking up at the moon, and the moon is between us and the sun. That means that the sun's light is going to hit the back of the moon from our perspective. And what we're going to see is dark, because the side of the moon that we're going to be able to see isn't going to have any light. It's going to be the night side of the moon. Okay, if that makes sense to you. So we're going to be looking up at the night side of the moon. The day side of the moon is going to be behind from where we can see. So the moon is going to look dark. That is what we call a new moon. Now, as the moon moves in its rotation around the Earth, its orbit, we're going to start to see a little sliver of the day side. Okay, just a little tiny sliver. We call that a crescent moon. Okay, we still are looking up and we're still seeing mostly the night side of the moon, but we're starting to see a little tiny sliver of the day side of the moon. Whatever part of the moon you see that is dark, that's the night side of the moon. Whatever part of the moon you see that looks lit up is the day side of the moon. Okay? As the moon moves in its orbit and now it's on the side of us. Well, at that point, we're going to see half the moon is going to look lit up. We're going to see half of the day side and half of the night side because it's on the side and we're looking out at it sideways. So we're seeing the back half is still dark and the front half, the half facing the sun, is light. And so what we see is half of the dark side and half of the light side. Now, this is a little bit confusing because, that's what we like to do. We like to be confusulating. We call that a half moon. No, I'm sorry. That would not be confusing. We call that a quarter moon. Even though half of the moon is lit up, we call it a quarter moon. That's the confusulating thing. The reason we do that is because it's 1/4 of the way through its orbit. Okay, it's 1/4 of the way around the orbit of the Earth. So we're naming it after how far in its orbit it is and not how much of it is lit up. I know that's weird because it's half full, it's half light, but we call it a quarter moon. Okay. As the moon continues to orbit, now it's still getting each night a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, and we get to something that's kind of the opposite of a crescent moon. It's what we call a gibbous moon. A gibbous moon is where a crescent of the moon is dark and the rest of it is light. So it's like mostly light, but there's a sliver that's dark. We're still seeing a sliver of the night side, but mostly we're seeing the day side of the moon because it's getting behind us. It's getting more and more behind the Earth. And so the sun, which is in front of us, is lighting it up, and the light is bouncing off the moon and hitting back towards the Earth. And so now we're seeing mostly the day side of the moon, and the night side is behind where we can't see it, except for a sliver. So that is a weird sciencey word that is pronounced gibbous, a gibbous moon. As the moon continues, eventually gets completely 100% behind the Earth, and now we just see the day side. Imagine, okay, again, this is a thought experiment you can handle. So the sun is in front of us. The light is passing across us. It's hitting the moon, and then it's bouncing back towards the Earth. 100% of what we can see on the moon is the day side. But, dear children, as it moves around in its orbit, what's going to happen? Because it's not just going to stay behind us, right? It's going to continue in its orbit. So as it does that, well, now eventually we're going to start to once again see a sliver of darkness. And so that, remember, what is it called when you can see mostly day, but just a crescent of darkness? It's not a crescent moon. It's the opposite of a crescent moon. It's a gibbous moon. So we're back to a gibbous moon. And then we keep going, and we end up in a quarter moon, third quarter, okay, which is half full because we like to be confusing. Okay, third quarter is a half full moon. And then eventually it comes back around in the front again, and it goes completely dark because the night side is the side we see, and the day side is on the other side where we can't see it. Okay, the side that's lit up is facing away from us, and then it starts all over again. Lunar phases are caused by the fact that the Earth, the Earth is orbiting the sun, but the moon is orbiting the Earth, and as it orbits the Earth, it one time per month-ish, not exactly because months are different lengths, but roughly one time per month, it is coming around, and the shadows, the part that we see in light and the part we see in darkness, the day side and the night side, relative to where we are, our perspective changes. Remember that a quarter moon is actually half full, and a gibbous moon is the opposite of a crescent moon, and you pretty much will understand lunar phases. Hi guys, thanks for watching my video. These rambling science videos where I go unscripted and just kind of barf up all the science knowledge out of my head are part of a series that go along with an online class that I teach, which you can sign up for if you go to handsomescienceteacher.com. I also have a whole bunch of free resources for homeschoolers. I have hundreds of articles on every topic that covers your entire science curriculum from 5th through 8th grade. I have online games and quizzes, all curated and written by this handsome guy, a science teacher with, three degrees, but 2 of them are in science. So it's targeted right to and directly to your science students. So sign up, subscribe to the channel, and I release lots of videos. Also, in addition to these ones, lots of little short videos that are like 2 minutes long that cover science topics. Those ones you don't get to see my handsome face, but they're still good videos, and they're much more targeted, and those ones are scripted, so you don't have to hear me like you are right now going blah blah blah. The end. Subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye.